It's made me the happiest person that I am, but it's also made me the most fearful parent in the world.
The sinner, would you be the preacher? Would you be my was the done, the done, done? I still got a lot of shit to learn, I'll admit it.
I am here to talk about my thoughts after having 2 whole kids. Yeah, I got 2 kids, you guys. So my son just turned 8 and my daughter is 2 years old. She just turned 2. Their birthdays are literally a month apart. And I have to say that I love my babies more than anything in this world. I had my first when I had just turned 21, and then 3 weeks later I had him. And I had my daughter when I was 27 years old. So they're 6 years apart. And when I first found out I was pregnant with my son, I had a lot of emotions. At first, I'm going to be honest, I did not want to have kids. I did not want kids at a young age. I wanted to wait until I was like around the age I am now, 29, 30 years old. I wanted to first be stable. I had plans, right? But like they say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans first, right? But yeah, so me and my husband conceived on our honeymoon. You know, people ask me, what made you want to have kids young? I wanted to have them young, and it wasn't just something that happened. I always told myself that once I got married, I would give my husband my full body. That's exactly what happened. So, yeah, hey, 10 months later, my son is here, right? And I had horrible PTSD after I had him. I got more silent. I didn't know how to react towards my husband. I didn't know how to be a mother. The mother instincts kicked in where my son needed me and I was there for him, taking care of him. Me and my husband both, I believe we did a good job raising him, but that kind of put a strain on our marriage. My husband's 6 years older than me, so at that time when I was 21, he was 27. It's his first kid too. At that time, he was in the military. He was working. I was staying at home with my son, and it put a strain on us because we had our son the first year of our marriage. That put a physical and a financial and an emotional strain on our marriage. It wasn't a really good experience. I'll be honest, we didn't get to stay in our honeymoon phase fully. Like, we didn't get to stay in that phase. We went from being 2 to 3 in a quick time frame. So we didn't get to vacation together. We didn't get to be in bliss together for the first few years of our marriage. It wasn't about us anymore. It became about our son. And it took the focus off of my husband and I until our little one. That really put a burden on us. So fast forward a few years later, we're in Germany. We're in a better position in life, better position in our marriage. We're starting to become comfortable. We hit that 5-year mark in our marriage, that 6-year mark in our marriage. I think, we around that time, we were between year 4. We were between year 3 and 7 in our marriage back then. Between year 3 and 7, we hit that 5-year point, and then it became better. Around that year 7 point is when we wanted to conceive to have another child. And before then, I was really having baby fever. I think I had baby fever for 2 to 3 years while we were in Germany. The last 2 to 3 years we were in Germany, I had baby fever like crazy, but we couldn't have a baby. I was on birth control, and then there were like medical issues and stuff. So I think around month 7 or 8 of trying, I think at that point we were like, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Oh well. And at that point, I don't think we thought that I could get pregnant. And so then we got pregnant with our baby girl, and then we had her. And now 2 years later, we have, still having 2 kids. It's like, wow, how do you feel? And I'm gonna be honest, there is a bigger shift when you go from 1 to 2 kids. Now, I want to talk about the age gap for just a quick second. I hear people say it's better to have a child back to back, but I'm going to be honest. I don't think for me, I could have had 2 toddlers back to back. dealing with my son and then dealing with my daughter, because they're like the same kid when it comes to acting wild and how wild my babies act. But then it's like, if I'm thinking about the terrible 2 stage, if I were to have them back to back, one be 2 and then one be 3 or 4, I don't think I can handle that, because that terrible 2 stage is something terrible to deal with. Like, my daughter's not that bad. Like, in her terrible 2 stage, she's a little bit more calm than my son. My son was, he was a screamer. Like, he was a screamer. He acted out, like, he wouldn't act out like at home the way he would act out in public. Like, it was bad. My daughter, she's more chill, you know, because she gets like oh, baby girl attention, you know, like it's a little bit different, you know. So she's not as bad as my son, but still, in their wild stage, to have 2 toddlers with their personalities, I don't think I could have handled it. So I think God knew what he was doing to not allow us to have our kids back to back. I really believe he knew that. But then the age difference is kind of cool too, because when I had my daughter, my son, he was 6, and so he was more independent my baby, he was independent from a young age anyway, but he was more independent. He could help out more, and I think that's what was needed, you know, to have a child for me that's older, who can understand the concept of, I have a baby sister. I can help my mom, I can love my sister, you know, but he can still be independent. So I think that for us, our family, that was a lot better. Life after having 2 kids, it's not bad. I actually do enjoy it. Wish I could have had more, but I would say this for any couple who's wanting to have children, especially in this day and age now, at least make sure that you are in a financial situation to where you can have your kids, because you don't want to strain yourself and stress your marriage out or your relationship out by having kids when you're not financially prepared. The next thing that I would probably say is, if you are a couple who just got married, wait to have children. That's the one thing I would say. Wait to have children. Enjoy each other first. Don't be so quick to get serious too soon. You want to enjoy one another. Go on vacations together. Figure out your roles in your marriage, your responsibilities. Have some kind of ground rules for your family, the traditions you want to set. Like, really talk about your life before kids, with just you two, and then after kids. But make sure you have those conversations and things set in stone. The way you want to raise your children, if you're religious, the religion you want to raise your child in, or the spiritual, or if you're spiritual, how you want your kids to be spiritually, monetarily, like the schools. If you're a vegetarian, your husband likes meat. Like, these are kind of things that you need to talk to your kids. Do you agree with spankings? Do you agree with timeout? Now, don't get me wrong, there are going to be a lot of things you're going to figure out as you go along, but you don't want to try to figure it out while that child is there for the major decisions that you two would have to make along the way, because there will be major decisions that you probably would have never thought about to talk about. But at least if you could get a lot of the big things out of the way, or even the minor things that could become big, get those out of the way. I'm not gonna lie, like, when you have more than one child, you know, you have to be prepared to lose sleep. Your concern is for 2 little ones. You know, you have a bigger concern. When it was just my son and I, with my husband, it was a little bit easier because, like I said, he was more independent. And we watched him, but he was cool. You know, when he was relaxing, he was relaxing. When he needed something, he would come and tell us. He didn't get into a lot of crazy stuff. We didn't have to worry about him going out the door. We didn't have to worry about getting into chemicals or being the exploring child, because that just wasn't his personality. But with our daughter, she is opposite. So when you have more than one kid, expect that your children are going to be opposite from one another. My daughter goes to every door. Like, she'll run up to the door when someone's there. My son, he's like, You know, my daughter gets into stuff. She likes to ramble through things, you know. My daughter has no fear of people. So you kind of have to understand your child as they grow and understand their personalities. So imagine going from taking care of one personality, which is that child, your child, and then now taking care of two different personalities. So, that's what I'm learning and navigating through being a parent. And then speaking of personalities, is catering towards them. Because when you conceive with someone, you both have two different personalities. And both of those personalities are going to trickle down into your children. But not only that, they're going to form their own personalities. You can handle your own character traits, but imagine handling a character trait that they get from your spouse or your partner, and that character trait may be something that you don't like. So imagine something like that. Or imagine a character trait that you may have that you see in your child that you may not want them to have, that you yourself are working on, and they would have to work on it too in the future, because you could foresee things. And that's the thing, you have to think about your family, your genes, like if you have an anger issue and your child may have an anger issue, if you don't want that child to have an anger issue, you'd have to get over yours. You gotta help them get over theirs. So like I said, these are things that you have to work on. So just from having more than one child, I'm learning that you as a parent don't know everything, and it will and does take a village to help you raise your children. But then here comes the fear part of having kids. When it comes to having children, your village has to be people who when you surround yourself around people, whether it's family or friends, people who you trust to help mold your children. Like, for example, I want to raise my son to be a gentleman, to understand that just because you make mistakes, it doesn't make you a bad person. But I want you to be a decent human being, to actually say, I made a mistake and I have to fix it, right? That you need to surround yourself around people who have that same mindset, or be around people who hey, even though I've done things wrong in my life, the lesson I've learned from it, I learned my lesson. It's a lesson I'm willing to teach other people, or the children growing up around you. So it's kind of like saying, hey, you want to have a role model in your child's life, the people who's going to be surrounded around your children. And that is something that you have to work on as well. My friends, even when I want friends who around my children who, if they couldn't come to me and tell me something, at least the person they go to who they can tell is going to give them the best information possible and not take advantage of my child. That is something you have to think about with your own children as well. You want to surround your child with people who you can trust, who won't take advantage of them, who won't violate them, who won't hurt them, but give them the best advice possible. The advice that you may want to give your child, that person's going to give your child that same advice. And that's what it boils down to whenever you have a village around you, someone who's going to make your child stronger, make them think about their actions. Okay, so that's a fear part and the village part when it comes to raising kids. Overall, especially with me being a woman, and then even with me being a tomboy, it's easier. I'm gonna be honest, it's easier to raise my boy than my girl, because my girl, she's tough. Maybe because she has two parents who are gamers. We're not really, I wouldn't say we're aggressive. I would just say we're assertive, but we stay to ourselves, but we're low key. And our son is very wild. Our son, you ever seen one of those kids who you can tell them to come here, but they just can't come here? Like, they have to do something wild before they come to you. It's like my son. Like, you can't just say, hey, come here. He'll walk straight to you. He has to do like 5 cartwheels before he comes to you. Like, that's kind of like my son, right? And my daughter adapts that same personality. Like, she sees him do it, so she does it. She won't just come to you. She'll probably have to fall a few times before she comes to you. Like, fall and then roll on the floor before she comes to you. So, I'm dealing with those personalities, right? But my daughter, think about it this, you guys. Like, with me being low key, I have natural hair. I don't really wear a lot of makeup. I'm not really a girly girl. I love workout clothes. Jeans, sneakers, t-shirt, sweaters. That's me, right? So my daughter, though, she likes dresses. She likes her hair being done. The whole fingernail thing, she don't know about that because I don't do any of that, right? But in the future, I can see that she might be a tomboy, but at the same time, she might have, that flair with it where she's like, I'm a lady, and I have to adapt to my daughter's personality while still being me and having my same personality, but allowing my daughter to be her. So if it's anything I can take away right now from just being a mom, even with your kids, you cannot lose your identity. I think along the way with my son, I did lose my identity because I was 21 years old when I had him. I was 20 when I got pregnant. I was 20 when I got married. So as a young woman, I was still figuring myself out. And now, 9 years later, I figured me out a lot more. Being a woman, we're so up and down though. But just the difference between how I raised my daughter and then how I raised my son is still the same. But having a daughter for me, in my opinion, is a lot different. But you still raise your babies the best way that you can. So for me, life after having two children it's changed me, because I can see how I am more protective over my son than my daughter. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but I can see my personality a lot in my daughter. My daughter has the personality traits that I know are going to take her far, just like my son does. He reminds me more of his dad, but has a lot of my inside personality. He thinks a lot, he overthinks, and that's like me. He wants to be a good person. He wants to learn from his mistakes. He wants to be the best version of himself, and I can see that in both his dad and I. My daughter is very outgoing. I can see that already. She's very outgoing. She's shy when she needs to be, but she knows how to get her way, as most kids do. But I think looking at my daughter, I can tell she's going to be the type who understands who she is and what she wants and how to get it. And she wants what she wants just like any other girl, So just watching that and just taking care of them it's really made me open up my eyes to just how you have to be outside of yourself and really love what God has given you. And even if you have one child, no matter if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10, however many kids you have, you just learn to adapt with them and go along the flow, go along with their way. And whatever it is that they want to do, all you can do is do your best to be the best parent. So life after having 2 kids it's changed me for the better. It's made me think more, made me think outside the box more, and made me be more aware of my surroundings. But then that brings it back to fear. I remember telling someone in Germany who wanted to have kids. She asked me how having kids is. Like, what is it like? What's the feeling? And I asked her, I said, do you like to sleep? She said, yes. I said, cool. I said, do you like to go out with your friends? She said, yes. I said, do you like having a life? She said, yes. I said, cool. I said, have kids. All of that is going to go out the window for some time. You're not going to sleep as much. You're not going to see your friends as much. You won't go out as much. Your life it's not going to be your life, because your life is going to revolve around someone else. But then I added this. I said, do you fear life right now? She said, no. I said, if you have a child, once you have that child, you're going to fear everything and everybody, because it's almost going to be as if the world wants your child, and you have to protect that little one because they cannot protect themselves. So that is how having kids has changed my life. It's made me the happiest person that I am, but it's also made me the most fearful parent in the world.
Was the sinner? Would you be the preacher? Would you be my? Was the done? I still got a lot of shit to learn.